How are you?
Good.
Tell me a little bit about yourself. Who are you?
First of all, I'm a civilian. I was born and raised in Calgary. I came to Israel when I was 18. I did the army, I was in the paratroopers, and then I stayed in Israel, fell in love with the country, worked in high tech, went to the US a couple years ago, did my MBA, moved to New York, launched a startup, and then October 7th happened.
And where were you on October 7th?
I was in New York. I was actually, for us, it was October 6th. So I was walking back from a Shabbat dinner. We had an amazing week. There was this huge Chabad Sukkot event, almost 2,000 people. And I'm walking into my apartment and I start getting these text messages. And it's okay, Hamas breached into Israel. They went past the border. It's it happens.
What was your relationship to the army at the time of October 6th? Not October 7th, October 6th.
Yeah. So since I was released in 2012, I've been doing reserve duty every year, sometimes once, twice, 3 times a year, with the same unit, with the same people. My unit is 551, made up of Tzanchanim, Maglan, Udevan. It's more of a commando unit. And even when I was living not in Israel, I would still come back and do reserve duty.
So October 7th is happening, it's unfolding. You get contacted by your unit and you made your way here.
I bought a ticket before my unit called me. I felt something going on. Texted my dad. I'm like, look, I'm coming to Israel. He's like, wait a second, relax. We don't know what this is. I said, Mom, Dad, I'm coming to Israel. And I bought the ticket. A couple hours later, my unit was called to base.
Okay, and you, at the time, you had your startup, or you still have your startup. You packed that all up. Your startup's on pause. Business brothers.
Yeah, once October 7th happened, my whole life was on pause. I didn't think about anything. Even when I was in Gaza, I had to make a mental switch, which was very hard. I'll think about friends, I'll think about work, not even think about family. I was focused on, number one, eliminating Hamas, and number two, bringing the hostages back. I wasn't thinking about anything else. And that's what happened until I was released.
And so you get to Israel, October 8th. Walk me through what happens. You land in Israel. We're in chaos. I was here. Where do you go? What do you do? What do you report to?
So I land in Israel. It's 5:30 p.m. on a Sunday, and I want to go to base. But my dad's like, if you don't come say bye to us, I'm going to kill you myself. So I go up north to Akko, where my family lives, and give a big hug to my grandpa, go to my parents, grab my gear. It's late, so I sleep there. And first thing in the morning, I give my parents a hug. And it was a quick goodbye because it was, my parents, by the time I got to Israel, they had 2 other boys in the army, we're 3 boys. And we're all combat soldiers, we're on the front line. It's not like, one is in less danger. So having a 3rd boy and saying goodbye to the 3rd boy was hard for them, but I left in the morning, got to base. My unit was like, what are you doing here? You were in New York yesterday, now you're here. It was amazing, but within half an hour, I got my gear and we started training.
And where do you fall into the sibling category? 3 boys, middle, oldest?
I'm the oldest.
Okay. So you have a lot of pressure.
Yeah. I'm I was paratroopers. My brother was in the Devan, what Fauda is based off of. And he also does reserve duty there. So it's very interesting for him. And my younger brother, he's 22. He just got released, last year and it's already back in the army.
Can you tell me a little bit about your experience, what it was like before going in, but now reuniting with your unit and preparing, whether it was mentally or physically, for what's to come?
We had chaos from the beginning, just like you did. We didn't know where we were going because our unit specializes in up north. And we knew that a lot of stuff was going on down south in Gaza, but up north was unexpected. You would, on October 8th, there was an attack from up north. So we were sure we were going up north, but then the West Bank came into place. It was always, as we say in Hebrew, balagan. We didn't know what was going on. So we started training for everything, for up north, for down south, for the West Bank. We trained on base, off base. We found an empty school in Israel here that we trained because it looked like something that we could face in Gaza. And it was weird, opening and clearing classrooms of, 3rd and 4th grade. We trained inside, outside, at night, in the morning. We were just ready for every single thing. And every day we were told something else. You guys are going up north. You're going down south. One day I remember we were in the middle of a drill at that school. They stopped the drill. They told everyone to get on the bus and get their gear because helicopters are waiting for you to go up north. And we're like, okay, like it's happening. Let's go. We got to base and it was canceled. And then the next day you guys are going to Gaza and then up north again. And like mentally, it was a lot of up and down because you're ready to go. You call your parents, you tell them goodbye, and then you say it's canceled. You do it again and again. I just stopped calling my parents because I didn't know it was real. And then we trained for 3 weeks total. We were one of the first reserve duty units to fully go into Gaza. And I feel like I did a PhD in Hamas studies. Like we studied every single thing about them, everything.
When was the moment that it became real for you?
I got 2 slaps in the face. The first one was when my middle brother went to base before this all started, when he was called up and said that this is serious. I was back in New York. And the second slap was when we crossed into Gaza by foot. It was, I don't really know how to describe it. It was weird and it was scary and it was, it was powerful and it was like this is happening. I've been doing reserve duty for over 10 years. I've been in the army. I've been on the border of Gaza and Syria and Lebanon. I've been in the West Bank. I've arrested terrorists. I've done a lot of things, but physically going into the unknown, not knowing how long you're going to be there for, that's when it became real for me. And it was like, from that second, that's when I made that mental switch of, I love my family, but I'm not thinking about them. My business at that point was the most important thing in my life. I put every ounce of energy in the past year and a half into it. I'm not thinking about it. My friends, I love them. I'm focusing on 2 things right now. And I feel like that really sharpened my focus when I was inside Gaza.
What was your mission? What is your unit's mission or IDF's mission?
The overall mission was to eliminate Hamas and bring back the hostages. Those were the 2 main things that we were focused on. Every day we had, smaller missions to go and clear this house, find weapons here, and do what we had to do. But overall, those were the 2 things that were the most important. And not every unit is doing both missions. We were focused on eliminating Hamas more than bringing back the hostages because that just isn't our field of specialty. But everything that we did helped both missions.
Can you talk a little bit about, you're inside Gaza, what is your day-to-day? Like most people will never be in a war zone, never be in hell like Gaza. Give me as much as you can on what it was like day-to-day, especially in that beginning part where you're walking into the unknown.
There was no day-to-day. Every day was something different. One day we got an alert that there's a group of 12 terrorists who are coming specifically to our house to kill us. The next day we got an alert that there was a drone that's going to drop a grenade at 8:30 p.m. The next day a suicide bomber. Every single day was different and we had to adapt to the situation. But to kind of give you a timeline, I don't know when to start because there's no start of the day, but let's say you're guarding at 3 a.m. You kind of go back to bed for an hour and then you wake up at 5 a.m. At 5 a.m., everyone's awake because we know that Hamas likes to attack when the sun is rising and you kind of know at the end of the day, at sundown. So at 5 a.m., everyone's awake. We have a patrol going out. Everyone's double posted on guard duty. And then at around 7, when that patrol has come back, half of the people are guarding, half of the people are eating breakfast, and you're switching. Some people like to do what we call a shower, a Gaza shower. So you take a baby wipe with some, Purell, some alcohol gel, and just rub each other's backs just to, breathe a bit. And then we do at 9 a.m. another round of guarding, and then 11 a.m. a mission, and then 12, we would clean our guns, and then there'd be alerts all the time, so it was unexpected. And then sundown would come, and we knew that Hamas was going to attack then, so we'd prepare ourselves, and another patrol, and then it was nonstop all day. And for the beginning, we'd be doing an hour of guard duty and 45 minutes of sleep, and an hour or 2 hours of guard duties, and we were kind of like robots at that time, just doing our mission, and every day was different. the houses we went into were marked as houses that were dangerous. They either had weapons inside them, intelligence, they were either the house of a terrorist. We wouldn't just go to any house we wanted to. We wanted specific houses that could be beneficial to us and to the IDF. So whether it was one house, an apartment, a couple apartments, we would clear those apartments in 2 stages. Number one, we would clear them from any high risk threats, which is more, bombs or terrorists. And the second thing we would do is we would look inside those houses for different clues to terrorism, whether it was Hamas flags, whether it was weapons, whether it was, maps of tunnels, which we did find. And then we would just stay, once those houses were clear and safe, we would stay there. We would guard from the house, we would guard outside. I won't get too into it, but we would guard from places that gave us a bit of an advantage over, the terrorists. From where were they coming from? Where were they going to sneak up on us? And we wouldn't stay there for the entire time. You would move pretty often.
And you talk about, clearing an apartment. Where are the civilians at this time?
In northern Gaza, there were barely any civilians. At the beginning of the war, the IDF gave them a lot of time, almost 3 weeks, to go down south for their safety. We, as IDF soldiers, we're not focused on civilians. We're actually focused on saving civilian life, whether it's Jewish or Palestinian, and focused only on terrorism. And those Palestinian civilians, they were told that northern Gaza is now a battleground and you have to move. So we had a few interactions with civilians, but most people we faced were terrorists.
And did you have any moments in the early stages where you felt you were coming close to, let's say, discovering a tunnel that would lead to hostages, or, going into a clearing apartment that you felt like this was it? And if so, did it come to fruition where you were able to find hostages?
The tunnel network is crazy. It's very big. And the first thing that we do when we see a tunnel is we all go inside, because it's either, surrounded with explosives or there's a terrorist waiting inside. Our unit personally wouldn't go into the tunnels. You have a lot of special forces, special units that do that. At the beginning, we found tunnels. We found signs of terrorism. We found a lot of intelligence. We found clues that would lead us to intelligence that helped the IDF. So we found stuff in the beginning right away.
Posted yesterday, I'm going to read the caption. When we weren't physically fighting, I spent a lot of time reflecting. I thought about the missions we did, the things we found, and what they meant. And before every mission, I tried to look for signs of peace or something that would hint to a better future. But every single time, with no exception, the things I found pointed towards the dream to wipe Israel off the map. I believe that the only path to peace is to replace the current leadership with one that loves their children more than they hate us, which is, I think, a truth that most Jews experience long before October 7th and exacerbated by October 7th. But the beginning part of this is you spent a lot of time reflecting, and you did a lot of missions. Well, can you tell me an experience, a day, a mission that you had that has marked you, that you will not forget? And that was, I understand why we're doing this now, not from the point of October 7th massacre, but guys, I understand why this is real.
Friday seemed to be the day of attack for Hamas. It seemed to be their favorite day. Would do it, close to Shabbat. And at the beginning of the war, we're 551. We're a big unit. Our forces were spread out, and we were sitting down in one of the houses. It was, our break time, and some of us were actually playing cards, and it was like a happy moment. It was like, even in all this, this nightmare, there's a couple smiles going around. And all of a sudden, on the radio, we hear everyone get to the mosque. We have an adhan. An adhan is a Iruah Rav Nifgai. It means that something happened with a lot of injured. And when we train for this type of thing, the people who are acting as the injured, the soldiers who are being treated as fake injured, they're swimming around, they're moving, they're screaming, and you're trying to treat them, and they're really trying to prepare you for the real thing. So this is what I had in my mind. We have to get to the mosque because that's what we were told to go, because something happened there, and it's chaos. We start running, we grab the stretchers, and we don't know what happened, but something bad happened. We get there, and there's a ton of soldiers, and basically what happened is that an explosives was remotely detonated by Hamas, and it ended up killing 4 soldiers and injuring 6. And we're outside this mosque. It's a huge mess, and you start seeing bodies being taken out on stretchers. There's ones that are covered, which you already know are dead bodies, and there's ones that you see people with no legs. You see people with no arms. A second ago, I was playing cards and laughing with their friends, and now people from my unit, 100 meters away from me, they're either dead or they're injured. And the thing is that it was silent. That was the creepy thing. No one was screaming, no one was yelling, because everyone was either dead or unconscious. And for me, that was like, okay, this is real. Everyone in this area doesn't hate the Jews or the Israelis. They want to kill the Jews. They don't want us here, and they're doing everything they can to destroy us. So that was hard for me, and eventually we went back to the apartment because there was a intelligence that there might be another bomb going off, and we wanted less injuries. And it was about 11 p.m. and we hadn't done kiddush or prayed, and I remember we prayed in the dark, like we prayed Shabbat dinner in the dark, and it was important for me to do kiddush, and I've never done kiddush in the dark, pitch black and silence. And I told everyone before the kiddush that what happened today is a big blow. It's a very sad day, and we lost soldiers that didn't need to go. But with that said, we didn't lose them for nothing, and their death is supposed to give us strength. I felt so much power when I was giving them this speech, and even though it was pitch black, I could feel everyone. I did kiddush, and we ate in silence. We ate in pitch black, and we felt each other, and you would hear, like sniffles going around. And for me, that's when I realized that we are fighting I don't even know what to call them. They're these barbaric savages who their number one goal is to kill us. And that's when I made that switch in my mind where there's no innocent people in this specific area. None at all.
So you go in, you're here, you're in Gaza. When was the first time you came out? What was that experience like? And then guide me through going back.
Yeah, we got out after 2.5 weeks, and they went by really quickly. First thing I did was we got to the kibbutz we were staying at for the night. It was about, I think, 12 at night. And I opened my phone, and it hadn't been on for 2.5 weeks. Again, WhatsApp message after WhatsApp message, and Instagram and followers. My phone just it froze. It wouldn't work. I'm trying to call my parents, and it's calling, but it's not working. And my phone stopped working. So I grabbed, one of the logistics officers' phones and just called my parents, and it still wouldn't go through. So I just called my brother, and my brother, who he's in the fight. He's seen terrorists. He deals with this every day. He's so mentally strong. He just had a kid. He just broke down, and for 5 minutes he was crying, and I felt guilty, and then I FaceTimed my parents and the family chat. Everyone's crying. I felt so bad. I'm I was okay. I smiled sometimes in Gaza. I didn't suffer. It was hard. Yeah, mentally, physically, it was hard, but I'm okay. And they just it was hard for me to stay online. I told them I had to go. And then the next day they were able to come visit us in Ashkelon, where we were staying. I just felt guilty every single time. That time and the rest of the times I got out for 24, 48 hours, I felt guilty because You know that there was a study done that 1 million parents in Israel don't sleep at night because of the war. And my parents and my siblings are part of that. And I just like, I felt bad for putting them through this. I told them I'm going to go into Gaza 10 more times if I have to, but like I really felt not that we didn't have love before, but I really felt it was much stronger. And every person I spoke to, every person I was with, like the hug, it was just so much more powerful. And I really started to appreciate the small things in life that we take for granted every day.
What did you do for food? You have to stay nourished.
Yeah.
To operate, right? But what was your nutritional plan?
Yeah. So I mean, the army has the regular, ready to eat meals, malkav as we call them. It comes with tuna and beans and corn and pineapple, and it's something that the army's been using for years. But as reservists, we're not everyday soldiers. We brought some extra things, like tahini. We brought, ketchup and sriracha, things to really improve our meals. We found a lot of things. The sad things or the expected things, the weapons, the grenades, the RPGs, the maps, with the terror tunnels. It's sad.
People's houses.
Yeah. I remember walking into the room of a 7-year-old, and on one side I saw, all like the pink and purple colors, something you'd maybe expect to find at some rooms of 7-year-old girls. On the other side, you'd find posters and pictures of terrorists, that they were idolizing terrorists at such a young age. And you open the closets and you find a weapon hidden under there, or you'd find some sort of intelligence. Like, you found things that were related to terror in the rooms, and also, yes, of the 7-year-olds. So it wasn't, it eventually wasn't surprising. I don't know if there's any good things we found, but I remember going to one terrorist's house, and he had like a museum under the house, and you'd find, these clay pots, 1700s, labeled. You'd find, a door that was like 500 years old. You find a record played from back in the day. You found a lot of valuable things, and there's like a rule in the army where even if you're about to destroy the house or blow up the house, you can't steal anything. You can't take anything, even if that specific, diamond necklace or whatever is about to be destroyed. So no one from our unit took anything that was valuable, unless it was intelligence that we passed on.
What are you seeing, being a person who is live in Gaza, fighting, defending Israel, and what are you seeing online? What's the contrast? Can you share your experience as somebody who's been in Gaza and now watching what the world is saying about Gaza, about Israel online?
During the war, I opened my phone maybe 3 times. I would film with the GoPro. I'd film every day. I'd write the captions in my journal, and once I'd get out on my 24, 48-hour break, I had this team who really, really helped me. These, amazing women, and I would just send them all the footage, send them the captions, and they would handle the page. But once I was released and officially mentally ready to come back to the world, I realized that us foot soldiers aren't the only ones fighting the war. You guys, outside of Gaza or Israel, are also fighting a war, and the amount of hate and the amount of posts that are just completely untrue. I knew it was there, but I didn't know how bad it was. Mm-hmm. You ask, a protester a few questions about what's going on, and if you ask them one question too much, they have no clue what's going on. And I was in shock to see what was going on in the outside world, and how much the world doesn't understand what's truly going on here. And that's why I decided to keep on fighting. That's why I decided to keep posting even more. Right now I'm going to the U.S. to talk to communities, and into Canada as well, hopefully. And the war isn't over. Also in Gaza, but it's only started here on social media. Like, the world doesn't know what's going on, and social media only really, unfortunately, helps the other side.
What is the answer? Because we live in a world where, say, the controversial thing, followers does not equal intelligence. But we live in a world that gives credibility to people with followers. So when you go on X, you go on Instagram, and you see accounts with 100,000 plus, 500,000 plus, posting certain information, it's almost impossible to blame a follower blame a follower for believing what they see. Because if you're being pushed out the same message over and over in your own echo chambers, like, how do we break through that? How do we break through the echo chambers? And what does it feel like to you, who is holding this truth inside, and you're fighting, to bring like the light to this truth, that it's not in fact what it's being exposed to be?
I don't blame them. I don't blame the followers. I don't blame the average, white or black or Asian person who has no clue about the war. They side with the Palestinians because not only is most of the world posting about pro-Palestinian things or anti-Israel things, the Wall Street Journal did that study where they just opened 10 random accounts. I think 60 or 70% were already smashed with like pro-Palestinian or anti-Israel, feed. So I don't blame them. I think that the answer is to do what the Palestinians are doing and to speak to communities that aren't of their own, to go to the black churches, to go to the Asian communities, to go to the Christians, to go to that middle ground over there who kind of doesn't know what's going on, because that's what the Palestinians are doing and we're not. And to be honest, our PR isn't the best. Like, the Palestinians have these like catchy slogans like, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Like, it sounds good, to be honest with you. And what do we have? In 1948, there was a partition plan, they didn't accept it. We're always explaining ourselves and defending ourselves. And what the Palestinians are doing, they just do a much better job. So to answer your question, I feel like what the solution is to do exactly what they're doing, to not just preach to the choir, to also get to those celebrities or major influencers and try to get them to post maybe on our side. A lot of people are scared. You have the Michael Rappaports of the world who aren't scared to post and lose followers. But when people have a platform and their followers want to see one thing, they're more inclined to post that one thing, like you said, just to keep their followers. And it's wrong. So I think we need to bring people to Israel. I think we need a birthright for major influencers to come to Israel to see what's going on. Not saying to dismiss all the Palestinians who have died. War is sad, there's death on both ends, and not every single person that died on the other side, on the Palestinian side, was related to Hamas. But we don't have even 1% of the media time that they have, and we need it.
Did you believe in peace before October 7th?
Yeah, look, once I was released from the army, I worked for an Arab Christian from a place where they don't really love Jews, but I saw who he was. I saw how much he respected me and how much I respected him. And, I could call him right now and he would come to pick me up for Tel Aviv, and he's in the north. I believe that the only way to peace with the Gaza Strip, with the Palestinians, is to get rid of Hamas. Get rid of the leaderships that is forcing terror on them. Hamas is brainwashing every single generation to hate us Jews, to hate us Israelis. And until that stops, we're not going to have peace. There's no two-state solution. There's no we're going to be neighbors. There's none of that. We have to get rid of the root of the problem for us to be able to get somewhere to peace. Because if each generation learns to hate us more and more and more, how are we going to achieve peace? I believe there's a path to it. I believe it can be achieved, but not in the way that's going on right now.
If we eliminate Hamas, who's next? Because Hamas is being funded by Iran. They're just a proxy. Do you not believe that there will be another proxy leadership at some point in Gaza? They'll go after teaching data.
Yeah, I don't think that the only problem is that there's going to be another Hamas 2.0 or another Islamic this or a Palestinian that. Hamas is also an ideology. It's not just a terrorist group. So we have to get rid of that too, and who knows how long that'll take. But I do believe that, with the world, many countries in the world do want peace in the Middle East. I know that Israelis do for sure. If we're able to at least replace the leadership, I think there's always going to be terror groups, always. But if at least the leadership, the ones who are deciding what goes in schools, how the Ministry of Health information is provided, and all these important things, and it's actually a democratic solution versus what's going on right now. I believe that even with those terror groups, we'll be able to be in a much better position than we're in today.
And then we got to take out organizations like UNRWA, and thanks to people like Hillel Meyer, if we can succeed in doing that, we can succeed in essentially their funding. We can take out their funding.
Even when we were in Gaza, like the whole world thinks that all this humanitarian aid and all this, UNRWA donations go directly to the people, and they're not. And this isn't me saying it, this is the own people saying it. I remember going into one of the terrorist houses, and you had a huge storage full of all this food. It was like enough food for maybe 500 people. There's no way 1 or 2 or 10 families could eat this amount of food. And I saw with my own eyes that Hamas takes all of this aid and pays to themselves. And it says, flour provided by the UNRWA for the Palestinian people, for the Palestinian brothers. And it just didn't get to them. It didn't get to them. And that's the issue. You find an UNRWA jacket, and then beside it you find a weapon or a radio, a grenade, or a map. And you don't have to be a genius to do 1 + 1. October 7th changed everything for me. Until October 7th, my startup was my life. I was working on it every single day for the past year and a half. But after being in Gaza and after coming out, after understanding how bad it is, I knew it was bad, but like how bad things are around the world, I decided to just putting my life on pause and going and continuing fighting. And right now I'm dying to go back to Gaza and to join other units who will take me. But a lot of reservists have been released or we're going to peace deal. I don't feel comfortable sitting here right now. And it's not you, and it's not Gil, and it's not the university. But being here, when I know that I have friends who are still fighting at war, and there's still hostages being tortured and being raped, and who will probably be killed if they're not brought back, I don't feel comfortable continuing with my life the way I was before. And that's why I've made the decision to go to New York, to go to the US, to go to Canada, and keep telling my story until I'm either back in Gaza fighting the war, or until the war is over, or until, we have more people on our side. This has totally changed my life. I didn't think that after an MBA and after living a year in New York, I'm going to be, going around the world and talking to communities, everything from, smaller synagogues to, hopefully big non-Jewish communities. But I have to keep on fighting, and I can't go back to normal life. A lot of people focus on the past and what's going on and all the. I can talk about the wars that every single war, 15 wars, we didn't start them. They were started by others, okay? The reason that we have checkpoints in the West Bank is the same reason you have checkpoints at the airport, because you don't want terrorists to come in. You go back to the partition plan where we wanted to split the land basically 50-50, and the other side didn't want. There's like so many angles depending on who you're speaking to, whether they're a historian or whether they believe in the Bible. I try to focus on right now, okay? So stuff happened in the past. It's sad for both sides. Today, we in Israel, we're not leaving. You want to live with us? Great. Let's talk and see how we can move forward, because just like we're not going back to Poland and kicking everyone out of where we used to live, no one's going to kick us out. Before the war on October 6th, we had 15,000 air workers coming in. Instead of coming in and working and living a normal life, they were collecting information and passing it back to the Hamas, which led to the attack. So Israel isn't going anywhere. You want to come live with us in peace? Let's figure out a way. Don't start bringing up things that we did in the past, because I can promise you I can quadruple the number of things you say by showing you how many times we were attacked. 100%.
We've created such normalcy in such unnormal conditions. It's not normal to have a rocket, on your farm. I'd say it's far from normal.
It's crazy what normal is for some people. And you just reminded me of something. Well, last night there was a siren. I'm not sure if you heard it, but every siren that I experienced was either on base or, I was in Gaza, so I didn't hear the sirens. I saw the rockets being shot. And yesterday I was babysitting my nephew, who's 5 months old, and the siren went off, and I didn't know what to do because I've been in sirens before, a couple years back, but I was a bit in shock, and I took this little kid, and for him it's normal because he can't speak. He lived throughout this war, and he went to the bomb shelter, time after time again. But for me, it was super weird. It's this is normal for this kid that in the middle of the night, or when he's sleeping, or when he's eating, or when he's whatever he's playing, he's picked up and around to the bomb shelter, and I call myself for a second. I ended up taking a selfie, a mirror picture, but it was just to remind me that this normal shouldn't be normal. And all the stories of what you said, what I said, of people in Sderot, this morning my friend that I'm staying at, he told me since the war started I have a pair of shorts with a key in it because my door locks automatically, so I just run out, grab my shorts, and I go to the Ahmad. It's that's not normal. But it is.
Did you ever have a life or death moment where you found yourself in a situation, firefight, or whatever it may be, and you said to yourself, this might be it?
I said she might sled a few times, definitely. I think it was on the third Friday we were in Gaza. We were in the second story of a building. My friend and I were guarding, and I turned to him and asked him a question. And before he could even answer it, we heard this big boom, and we realized an RPG was shot maybe a meter away from us. And it was kind of like a video game almost, everything was shaking. There was dust everywhere. Shots are being fired. You don't know what's going on. And we're just, crawling to the room, and everyone's, one person saying shoo, one person saying hi, and it was a huge mess. And then you're getting shot at. You're actually getting shot at. You feel the bullets. You hear them. They're exploding right beside you. And the difference between active duty soldiers and reservists is that reservists, they've lived longer, so they have much more to come back to. And when you're in active duty, you're a soldier. You're more like a robot. I'm going to go and But as a reservist, you think twice. And while I knew we were getting shot at by terrorists, who knows how close they were, we thought, okay, let's think for a second before we go out and, let's collect everyone, and then we'll return fire or do whatever we have to do. So we thought before, and I think that's one of the things that saved my life from that situation. If anyone thought this wasn't real, it's real. And you go outside and you see where the RPG hit. And luckily it was the concrete part of the building. It was in between the non-concrete parts, and I feel like it was from God, honestly. But it was a scary moment, and had a few more times when you're being shot at. It's not a paintball gun. It's not a BB gun. You're being shot at, and all of a sudden the heavy backpack that you're running with, that slowing you down, all of a sudden it feels weightless, and you can run and yeah, I'm not gonna scare my mom anymore because she'll probably watch this video. But yeah,
you watch these movies, it's like American Sniper, Lone Survivor, and you got the soldier comes back from the Middle East off tour for a little bit, and reclaim these kind of moments. Or are these the moods that we put in your head?
I mean, on the day-to-day, no. I think that mentally, this Hasbara stuff, this Instagram stuff that I'm doing has strengthened me a lot. There are other soldiers in my unit and other units which may think differently and do think differently, but I think I deal with this all day. So I'm looking through the pictures, I'm looking at what to upload when I'm talking, when I'm interviewing, when I'm just out there. It's a lot of things that do remind me of stories in Gaza, of things that happen, whether it's even unintentional things. I was with a friend who, on her phone case, she had something that it like shocked me because it reminded me of something I saw in Gaza. And I was like, it was weird. But I'm not, I'm thankfully, like, mentally, I feel like I'm strong. And I wrote a journal in Gaza that I made sure to write every day, and I haven't had the strength to open it yet because I think that those stories will come up. But when I'm ready, I'm going to do it, and maybe I'll publish it.
Hopefully you publish it. Well, listen, man, like, thank you. That's all I can say, thank you. I'll tell you, that word has changed for me, thank you. I was going to the south. I was there last week, and a soldier said to me, thank you so much. And I'm thinking, look, no, man, thank you. And it was like, I'm sure you've heard of dad of us. Both of his parents were unfortunately murdered. I went to the Shivar, and we're talking for a quick second, and the guy's thanking me, wishing me a long life, and I'm like, there's something wrong with this situation. I'm like, that's just the epitome of Israel and Jewish people. It's unbelievable. So thank you, really, really. Off the record, on the record.
Yeah, I just one of many soldiers, and we're all part of this. It's like, just because I'm in the physical war doesn't mean that your part or Gui's part or anybody else's part is less important. And honestly, the physical war, we can win. We know it. We're much stronger than Hamas, and the IDF is the strongest army in the world. The war that you're fighting, the social media war, much harder. Mentally, I'm telling you, experience some things, but you guys are the ones that are exposing the truth of the world, and you guys deserve a huge pat on the back, because here in Tel Aviv, you should be enjoying life and eating at the best restaurants here, and meeting people, and instead you're taking your time going to visit the South and help me get my story out. So I'm making it my life mission right now to just go and speak to everyone that wants to hear, whether they agree or whether they don't. The hard questions, the soft questions, the easy ones. If you would have asked me 5 years ago, where do you imagine your life at 32, I would say in Tel Aviv, probably married with kids, working at a great startup in a great community, and being able at 7 p.m. to come home and spend time with my family and enjoy life. But it's not like that. So right now I'm living out of a suitcase. I'm single. I'm going to go and just go on this mission, because we have some people doing it, but not enough. And I feel like with my story, it brings another angle. And I don't think that Noy Leyb is personally going to end anti-Semitism or is going to, change the view of the entire world. But I do believe that, I'm going to go make a difference, and that's why I'm doing this.
What's your one message to the world outside of Israel, outside of the Jewish communities?
We don't want to be here. We didn't start this war. We don't like this war. I'm a civilian. My friends are civilians. We want to go back to our normal lives. We want to enjoy. We don't want to have to worry if, how close is a bomb shelter? On Google Maps, I looked, and there was like restaurants, bars, and bomb shelters. And it's like crazy to think about that. We want to go back to our normal lives. And we, the Jewish people in the state of Israel, want peace. Say that again for the people in the back that didn't hear. We want peace. But we need someone on the other side of the table to want peace as well. And that's the core issue, is that we're dealing with an organization, if you want to call it, that doesn't want peace. They want to wipe us off the map. If they want that, they're going to try and do that. We're going to defend ourselves. And that's why we are who we are. And
Let's go.